Iuris Scientia for the Soul is back with episode 17 with me, Sabrina, as your host for today's episode. Today's theme for today's episode is legal movie review. Today's movie I'm going to review on is none other than the iconic, legendary Hollywood film that made some of us, if not all of us, into the legal field, which is Legally Blonde. I'm just kidding, that's not the actual movie I'm going to review on. Today's actual legal movie review is on the movie called Sleepers. And Sleepers is a 1996 American legal crime drama film. The film tells the story of 4 friends from the west side of New York known as Hell's Kitchen, and how they grow up in a tough but protective neighborhood where the moral poles are Father Bobby and King Benny, the mafia boss. In the summer of 1967, when the kids were 13, they stole a hot dog wagon and it rolled down the subway steps and ended up severely injuring an elderly man. They were sentenced to a reformatory institution known as the Wilkinson Home for Boys in upstate New York. During their stay, they are constantly subjected to sexual abuse and torture by head guards Sean Knox, Henry Edison, Ralph Ferguson, and Adam Taylor. Example of the abuses they went through is when during the Wilkinson's annual football game between the guards and inmates, when Michael convinced another inmate, Rizzo Robinson, to help win the game. When the young boy, or aka inmates, had won over the guards during the game, humiliated, the guards moved the boys to solitary confinement for weeks where they are systematically beaten. Rizzo was consistently beaten to death, to which the guards told his family that he had died from pneumonia. Other than that, in the spring of 1968, shortly before Shakes was released from Wilkinson, Knox and the other guards arranged a farewell party in which the 4 boys are again brutally abused. Now the film is flash forward to the summer of 1981. 2 of the boys, John and Tommy, now about 28 and gangster themselves, walk into a restaurant and see Knox. Confronting him at the restaurant, all the trauma had resurfaced into both John and Tommy upon seeing the guard that had abused them for so long, and in consequence of that, they had shot him to death. Then they are brought to trial. But one of the original 4, Shakes, is now working for a newspaper company, while another one of the boys, Michael, is now an assistant district attorney. They fashion a scheme in which Michael will try the case in such a way that he secretly intends to botch the prosecution and expose what the guards at Wilkinson's did. They form a plan to free John and Tommy and get revenge on the other Wilkinson's abusers. During the trial of murder for Sean Knox, Michael secretly drafts scripted questions in advance. So Snyder, a lawyer that was hired to defend John and Tommy, casts significant doubt on the testimony of a woman who witnessed the murder, while the 2 other witnesses are intimidated into silence. For Michael's plan to fully succeed, however, he must damage Knox's reputation and convincingly place John and Tommy at another place at the time of the shooting. Ferguson, when called as a witness, admits that Knox, like the other guards, used to abuse the boys. To clinch the case, however, a key witness was still needed for John's and Tommy's alibi. Shakes has a long talk with Father Bobby, who resists at first, but after learning the truth about the abuse they went through, he reluctantly agrees to perjure himself. At trial, Father Bobby testifies John and Tommy were with him at New York Knicks game at the time of the shooting and shows 3 ticket stubs to prove it. As a result, John and Tommy are acquitted. So what is the significance of this movie that I have chosen for today's episode? There are 3 issues that were brought up in this movie. First and foremost, the most obvious theme that we can see during the first half part of the movie is the police brutality towards the inmates, which in this case is the young boys. Police abuse remains a serious human rights problem in Malaysia. Unjustified shootings, mistreatment, and deaths in custody persist because of an absence of meaningful accountability for Malaysia's police force. Much like in the movie, Sean Knox and the other guards abused their power and their position as an adult to abuse these young boys in Wilkinson. They had even tortured the boys into starvation and solitude, and worst of all, forcing the young boys to do sexual acts with them. Which connects to our next topic, the subject on the sexual abuse on minors. This issue is a major concern in our country, as 1 in 10 children in Malaysia is likely to become a victim of emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. Evidence shows that most of the abuse takes place either in homes, family, schools, alternative childcare institution, hospital, and juvenile care homes. Considering the stigma and attitudes of Malaysian public, most cases of child abuse goes unreported. Lastly is regarding the issue of perjury. This was brought up at the end of the movie where Shakes had asked Father Bobby to lie during court in order to prove the alibi for Tommy and John. In Malaysia, perjury can fall under section 191 of the Penal Code, where it stated that whoever being legally bound by an oath to state the truth makes any statement which is false and which he either knows or believes to be false is said to give false evidence. Although the father's intention was of good nature to help the four boys into getting revenge on their abusers, in the eyes of law, it would still be considered as a crime. In my humble opinion, this movie may be old, but the issues are still relevant in our modern society. This means that there hasn't been any progress to our law to completely prevent or abolish crimes such as police brutality, sexual abuse on minor, or even perjury. I would totally recommend you guys to give this movie a watch, as it really helps us to get a glimpse on the legal world, where sometimes there will be cases where our moral sense will clash with the legal sense. So thanks for watching. That is all for today's episode. Stay tuned for the next episode. Bye!